This is the entrance. Here we are. This is connected together with a pyramid from the knee.
Yes.
But this is what discovered, and they discovered the entrance, which is the other side there. We call it southern pyramid, like northern and southern. The bent pyramids. And the other one there, the next one, is actually called the red pyramid, which has got a color of a little bit limestone with the sun turned a little bit to be reddish color. So that's why they call it the red pyramid.
I film you. Want me to get a picture of you?
Yes.
You're gorgeous, darling. Just be yourself.
Be your bad self.
Yeah, your bad self. Where's the best place to meditate?
You can see all the way down.
Where's the best place to meditate?
In between the paws. Just let yourself experience it. Right now it's just about all those previous times that you were eyes.
ايه يا عم الصورة اللي بيصور الصورة وده يا خرابي اسود انت جايبني بايدك جدا اعمل ايه بالبعد ده يا عم دي قريبة هو انا عايز انا والنبي جايبني ده هو ده كله انا عايز ابو البول انا عايز انا وانت لما
North Pole and the South.
So nothing with Mount Shasta, this is connected to
Separate bit.
Okay, separate. Can we take a good picture?
Yes, that's
Yes,
what
we want to do that. Yes. We just selecting. Guys, group photo. One more? One more. Okay. We can share. So now I need to be sure that we're gonna visit that temple, which is actually ruins for the King Amenhotep III. But it's a very special shot when you're standing in that window with the Sphinx face. It's really unique photo there. So we need to do that before we go. Actually,
How long before we go?
What's it? No, I mean. Oh, sorry. You came in. أنا الطبيعي ممكن يعلق بعد ولا لاقي حال ولا لاقي عمل معرفش. Let's get some real fruits that come from here. I'm totally using nonsense. So we just don't want anything tiny in space because. Thank you.
Something hidden behind it, and it's just a fake stone in front.
Thank you. That's right. I said the same thing.
A lot of this is trying to find the lost. supposed, no, it's solid stone.
See? That's why, like the frescoes.
So they're trying to find treasure?
Yeah, behind the walls, if they buried something.
The Christians were treasure hungry. Goldaholics.
Oh boy.
This place was adorned in gold originally, all over. And then the DNA will go active. Sometimes the DNA was put into the water.
That's what he's saying. That's what it felt like.
Well, to the flowers. The showers should be equivalent.
Yes, exactly. Templar cross right there. Yeah, it's just
That's what I thought. It looked like the
It's a special set of Templar.
the Templar?
Yeah, that's a Templar. It's a special set. A special set.
So it's not a cross?
No, it is a cross.
But they're marking.
It's a full marking.
It's a marking. They're marking
Of
their.
a special set of Templars who were treasure hunters.
Oh,
They were in and out the church, very tied to Christianity in one level. And they had a lot of knowledge.
You didn't know that, did you?
yeah.
Wherever you see that, that's a Templar marking. A very special set.
This one is
Elite to lead.
This one is different. If you notice, this one has a different design to it.
Yes.
This one is +3.
But why they left them behind? Like they marked something behind?
Yeah.
They're the Christian to their side on the top of their. They could also be doing some sort of magical stuff and imprinting out there.
Transmuted stuff that did something to their DNA, their consciousness, their life force, their knowledge. So when you're talking about that empowered water, we talk about programmable water. Water's, all crystals, tetrahedron crystals. It's all programmable. You can put essence into it. Same way you do with oil, same way you do with all the other things. Cooking is the classic example of putting your life force into something. You put your love into it.
Makes a
Feel it.
difference.
You
Yes, it makes a difference in the taste.
You can tell the difference between fast food and a prepared meal.
Even if you go to a very expensive restaurant, but something that person has bad energy, you can feel it.
Who wants to eat that food?
Exactly. Same thing applies to the flower of life, the water, the DNA, whatever it is. That was their belief. Exactly. And their belief is what empowered the magic.
Yes.
And it did do a magical thing.
Not what you think.
It built this.
Exactly.
Somehow it did.
Use the same time.
I would love to give you some free time. How long do you want to be here? I'll just
That's vitrification. That's an energy weapon.
Whoa.
That's a vitrification. That's an energy weapon. The actual high beam frequency energy weapon. Those are the battle for this right here.
Why would they do that?
Because there was a battle in here for technology. War.
Energy weapon, vitrification.
Burned up. Just like this one.
Wow. Oh look, they're using codes. There's codes for energy. I know the tools, the codes.
About 6 fingers.
because everyone's talking, sleeping, whatever.
And if you're not dreaming, why are you dreaming so much?
Because the beggar energy here is so pervasive that you're probably not. And it's pure on haunting demon shit. That's what I was kicking out last night.
Oh, you feel it too?
Oh God, it's miserable. It's miserable.
Yeah, and she wanted to do something, but I got back home. That tea stuff. The dreaming, I'm not dreaming. I'm awake.
Yeah, but that's the thing, you're getting downloads.
That's why I said upgrade your name. I said that's
It's not an upgrade of DNA, it's a download. It's preparing you for experiences.
Okay.
They got here, it may not be tomorrow, it may be somewhere else. It's just preparing you.
Yeah, Andrew, let me know when you get more perspective. I'll get it on camera and more galactic history.
I'm gonna
stuff.
blow your minds. We won't be up early anymore.
and we'll pick
Everyone's
up
gonna have group circles. Ask away.
Yes, yeah, and that's happened. We do have things like it's okay, what you don't know what's happened after that. But most of the story, when they told us before in advance, we kind of like aware of it. زي فلوبة. ففتح المكان. طبعا هنروح نشرب حاجة. زي 400 احنا خارجين لسه رايحين هناك. عندك الشاي which is actually now the original piece in Louvre. When we go upstairs, I will show you that we put replica piece actually, but the original piece in the Louvre Museum. If you just look up there.
Yeah, Joe, I want to ask you, I never asked you, what was the significance of why they took such detail and energy to elaborate the ceilings, to illuminate, to do all the ceilings in the artwork?
Why? Because normally they mention kind of things like that. When you meditate normally, when you just quiet, you look to the sky, you go to the heaven. So when you just let's say you're gonna lay here right now, you're just gonna focusing on the ceiling, and you're just gonna, your eyes gonna go in a very lovely details. And very simply you connect it. So normally when you just you look to the sky, it's the same way. When you look to the sky, so your eyes gonna enjoy the beauty of it. What? DMT is suicide. DMT? Yes, it's something we naturally produce just in like magic mushrooms, like psychedelics. Because when you're in that altered state, all this stuff comes in. So, yes, they did use all forms of unaltered substances. Exactly. And you fully about it.
Was it acacia tree?
Acacia tree, psilocybin mushrooms grow worldwide. It's not just unique to anywhere, one part of the world. As well as Amanita muscaria comes from the north. There's plants here that naturally produce DMT, which is another very powerful psychoactive.
Sure, yeah.
Ever heard of ayahuasca?
No.
In South America jungles, the shamans there, they take two different plants. One naturally produces dimethyltryptamine, which we naturally produce in our brain.
Okay.
And when you take it, combined with another plant that's called an MAO inhibitor, you can absorb high volumes of DMT and have a full-on, what we call spiritual journey.
All animals, so from fish to whatever, produce naturally DMT. But the DMT produces mystical experiences, or like it's being in, you step out of this reality. It's like having a dreamtime experience where things that can happen that don't happen normally in the reality.
It's kind of like a cactus things they do in Peru.
Yes, that's called San Pedro.
Oh, like San Pedro.
Yes.
Ayahuasca's the grandmother, San Pedro's the grandfather. Two different forms of experiences.
Oh, wow.
So a grandmothering, loving experience, and a grandfather teaching experience.
They would do it very ceremonial. This was very sacred. It wasn't like to go party, to party or something. They would do it took as a vision quest, as a prayer. They would usually have a priest or whoever was overseeing them and helping them with the unseen side of what they were experiencing. Because you would now see, energies, angels, demons,
Exactly.
you see everything.
Right.
You can see what's also in your own shadow to heal. What's in your own self to heal.
I do other groups with that too.
Wow, yeah.
When we finish here, we go and do that now.
Yeah.
This is pretty sacred in here.
This is where the
you have
there it is.
camera. Oh,
The light.
Ooh, yeah.
This is the light bulb.
really?
The light bulb
Light bulb.
right here.
What's the name?
They're ancient light. They're ancient electricity.
Yeah, electricity, right? Wow, at least you got a camera that because they're not ruined yet. Wow.
When whose crypt this was?
It's not a crypt.
Oh, I thought they said it was a crypt. This is the coffin.
They did that just to scare the Christians off.
That's good.
As well as the tens of thousands of people doing it on top of that, leaving a legacy of experience.
It's such a different energy compared to the last time.
Oh, yeah, so nice. Very good energy.
That city also had issues too. That city, where ISIS, that was not ISIS,
What was there?
Good?
very good.
Okay.
What? So, yeah.
We'll do it later.
This is your body. This is your body. It has nothing to do with it.
Because I had really bad neck pain when we were coming.
It has nothing to do with it.
Yes.
This is you, not the energy. This is you, not the energy.
Oh, copy that.
This is just plain old you. It can't be plain old you and not an attack. This is just you. You've absorbed too much energy. You gotta figure out how to
Welcome to the family. That's
We're human sponges, so
when you get around.
that's what we are.
like hidden spot. It will show up in the city. Like a high priest will be. This is storage room. No one knows of another door here, so he would just go there, like doing his work in the office. So he would go to the city and see and listen.
You just click and hold,
Just for the town.
so it images,
no one knows it's
and
a
then
town.
you go second.
See, all these holes and just one up
Is that
there.
what you wanted, or you want
Yes.
more? I'll give you more. Let's see.
That one.
On the
Okay, I'll just do.
Every room's completely good. See that one?
What's that?
But that'd be a long
Busy.
Please, right there to the right. Everywhere. Yeah, blood's been shed everywhere. Like rain.
Where's she
Oh,
sitting?
it's not very
Yeah.
clear.
What is this place?
See how the
Once again, it's about understanding the Egyptian gods, the
Oh.
reality, the belief of what's going
Oh
on.
my God, yes.
Yeah, there's a history.
What do you saw?
It does look like aliens. Oh my God, oh my God.
Oh, yeah,
Oh my
those
God,
two.
look at that. With Horus with the crown, it looks like exactly like an alien sitting here. Yes.
Because it is.
Wow.
It probably is.
Probably is. It looks like exactly
The alien at the very top.
No, you see the Hathor? If you see the Horus face with the crown, it does look like an alien sitting and doing blessing. The whole, this one. See?
Those?
Oh my
Those?
God.
Do you have a flashlight?
Which one?
Can you shine on what you're talking about?
Okay, like
I don't know which
I didn't discover Neil. He's actually
Look
good.
at this guy.
Yeah.
Look at his head.
that.
He looks like big eyes, tentacles, and then a big brain.
Look at that.
Oh, there
Okay,
it is.
but when you look at that way,
That's
from
not
a
a
distance, you
horse.
can see
That's an
it's an alien. You know what? A lot of people having when they taking photos, you can see that. But if you just look like that, it's like an alien. So
Oh, yeah, yeah,
a lot
from a
of people,
distance.
half their face comes in the photos.
Yeah.
A lot of
Really?
times, it just comes at the face. When you took a normal shot, she's not there. Half of it comes in the photos, and some of them smiling, some of them, sad. Many times. Yeah. Yeah, this is goddess Ma'et, the goddess with a feather.
Try to click it automatic on top.
Yeah. Is that, I can't see. On the table, wait.
Yeah, she's holding her hand. She's holding it.
Middle one.
Ma'at. M-A-A-T.
Yeah.
She's the one that used her feather to scare the heart. We call it the justice feather.
Right.
Exactly. You can do one and share.
If you would mind just, yeah. You're good.
It does. This is the main temple, which is Karnak Temple, and all the way around, it's just dedicated to different gods or gods. We're gonna explain everything now, and you're just gonna take it easy. But this is really amazing, beautiful.
Hey, we can actually do that to ourselves.
Eventually.
Oh my gosh! I get that. I get that.
There's still a construct created by someone.
That's me. And that's all of us. Oh my god. I think I somewhat get that. I understand what you're saying.
You're getting there. A ninth grade now.
I know. There's no. I don't know how many grades there's so many.
There's an unlimited amount of grades.
Yeah.
Because guess what? It's always a self-litmus test. Are you acidic to the information or pH balanced?
Got it. I know what you mean. I need pH balance. I was actually, you know, my attempt was to, what I sent out was balanced. I sent out, you know, yeah, an attempt.
We live in pendulums. We live in pendulums. It's okay. Next up, learning to control the pendulum.
Yeah, the small obelisk, but the main obelisk, actually, we're more there. It's more there.
I am interconnected with all that is, was, and ever will be, and I'm not competing with it as an I am. My agenda is still there, but I no longer need to compete with all that is, was, and ever will be. And an interconnectivity is taking a step forward in neutrality, knowing that each step, the agenda side is still going.
Yeah. But
not
you're not
allowing
linked
it.
it.
Not allowing it.
Choose me. I think I know what you're talking about. If you want a process for your whole life, because you don't want to do that. That's what I meant. You don't want to.
No, I understand.
To be here for to put the office there.
Yeah, because you're constantly.
Oh, no. Okay.
The terminology you're using is not the
I'm
same as what we're
miscommunicating because that's what I meant.
Hey,
because
let's listen so Dora doesn't have to explain twice.
Is it alright?
Smoke and mirrors.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
It's rock. Rock illuminates. Man goes, ah, God.
Yeah.
If you just figure out.
This is the first B we've seen.
B? No, we do have a Nusubiti. Nusubiti is the royal name. The Sara name. Okay, let me explain that.
Let me show.
No, I know the Nusubiti. I just want to show you the difference. So Nusubiti, when you first name, baby name, and the Nusubiti, the royal name. So every king he got Sarah name and Nusubiti name.
Okay.
So birth name and coronation name, baby name and king name.
So what is this one here then?
It's the B.
That's the B, that's right.
Yeah, that's the B.
Okay.
It's always, if you just look, you're gonna find it in front of every cartouche.
Okay, in
If you
front
want
of
to
it.
explain about it, the royal cartouche,
First name.
put the Nusubiti. If you want it to baby cartouche, you're gonna find it there.
Who they were originally before they were coronated.
Yes, exactly. When it's born with, you never know he's gonna be the king or not. You give him a name. Once he changes, like Tutankhamun, when he became the king, Nebkhebra, he changing the name, giving a powerful name, giving like a nickname, but it's really original, very powerful one, right? If you just guys look around here, we do have 134 columns, 134.
But this was big even for the giants. And then there were giants that were 30, 40, 50 feet tall. But there would only be 6 or 7 taskmasters to a few 100,000.
Well, why would the windows be so tall?
Because they're bringing technology up there to load it into the ships. It wasn't about windows. It was ancient. It was after the ancients fell apart that they just became windows instead of ways to get parts up there. And equipment and so on and so forth. Okay.
Let's go.
Because there's a lot of pillars here, isn't there, for the size of the roof?
You're going to have a 3.5, 4 mile wide ship and a lot of shit to hold it.
Yeah, this should take it. Over 100.
Well, this whole thing is a massive earth-based elevator to lift off to space.
For the whole thing?
Yeah. Gravity elevator. Global elevator.
Only part of the history of the
Can you fly it? Yeah.
Technically, yes. I think we all have the DNA to fly them. Those are all DNA reactors. That's how their technology works, and that's what keeps their technology safe from other invading species. Only a DNA experiencing skin suit person inside the skin suit has all of the codes combined with the skin suit to make the technology go active. That's why we can't just easily rebuild these temples they've been building where they did. Because the ship is an experience, a reality-based experience that comes from a construct.
Yeah.
Circle, I haven't seen that one before.
Oh yeah, me too.
You haven't seen that one
Not
either?
yet, no. What that? But it doesn't look like a sun in the race.
No, it doesn't.
So it's like,
So this is, again, rich city.
when they put this sample, they talk about the city.
Right.
They talk about the city or the town. Instead of they say town or put the letter town, you put the symbol.
Okay.
So the little snaky thing with the two ears coming out, is that a slug?
Yeah, like it's a slug. Yeah,
It's a slug.
It's a letter too. It's a letter S.
That's that quantum entanglement.
So you're one with it to the point where it doesn't phase you.
Correct, because it's natural charge does not necessarily mean bad. Charge as energy. Polarity determines if it's going back and forth on the pendulum of experience within the agenda-driven being, who is agenda-driven to release things. Because you are a karmic resolution being, it's part of the DNA skin suit of experience.
So we can
For every
release.
breath and every blink and every fart, something is being resolved.
Resolved.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you. I got it.
Whether you're aware or not, it doesn't matter.
I get it. I get it.
And interconnectivity
We
is
process
allowing all
that. The
of
body's
that to be.
processing all that if you allow yourself to integrate.
Integration is also a state of awareness. It's interconnected. We're attempting to have the state of being of interconnectedness. The state of interconnectedness. And interconnectivity is moving forward with all the pendulums doing what they're doing, but not allowing polarity to drive forward the agenda. Polarity looks for the story in the myth.
Yeah.
Something to grab onto.
Can I share something about polarity?
Sure.
Yeah, because the thing was, when I woke up that morning, that I just knew I was going to Egypt, I wasn't all positive or anything. I went beyond polarity, and I was totally working too much already, and I just left it there. Just going down to my heart, and everything just, took place by itself. Yeah. And I just thought, okay, I trust the process, and I was like going beyond. I was feeling it because I was so in contact. I mean, I was so much in my heart. Not anything that I tried to have to be my heart. I was just there, and I felt that I was like drawn back beyond time and space, and I felt the happiness of being here, and I left it at that. That was for me. I don't know if it's right or not, but it is like an example of going beyond. Not because
It is. That is interconnectivity, taking charge and polarity and driving it as part of a beneficial I am thing. So the agenda and the infinite being who doesn't use agenda created a solution which satisfies but does not create expectation.
Because I had no expectation whatsoever. I just, in a way, I knew it.
Knowingness.
But,
Back to knowingness. It's always knowingness, knowingness, knowingness.
That statue was magnificent.
Yes.
It was
Gorgeous. You just jumped right out of it.
Yeah. My tears came. I was like, wow.
He's kind of like really gets revenge from everything, destroying all the things. But it's kind of like, how come I'm gonna remove one of the obelisks? So do you know what? He built a mud bricks wall all the way up to cover it, to hide it. He cannot remove it. And then he built a higher obelisk, kind of like, I will make it even better and nicer than yours. So he built a higher one. And here the
Bigger obelisk battle? Jeez.
Yeah, it's just like bigger. And that's one, this is the head. Up there, she's kneeling in her knees in front of her father, which is Amon. She gets blessing by him.
The Great Dick Wars.
You gotta be politically correct now.
The Great Phallus Wars.
I said phallus.
Tell us about the Great Phallus Wars.
They're Phoenicians fought the Phoenicians.
The Beatles there, which is a symbol.
We know this. We know the story.
Phoenicians.
See, I think that's
It's a pun.
Yes. We love your pun on words, actually, quite. We're going to be using them. Sorry, we'll be using them.
Many holes were made.
Many holes.
Many holes were nailed.
Instead of the gallon boards, the ballot boards.
Coffee. That's what I was.
I say that all the time.
Really?
Habibi?
No.
Meow. Meow, meow, meow.
Wait.
Meow, meow.
Meow, 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 meow.
Meow, meow.
Once you get it, you gotta
Aha! We're racing! Yeah! Oh no! She's winning! careful. Be careful.
So the headdresses here are different. So the one on the left, well, his headdress is totally different.
It's kind of like a mixture with a Greek Roman style in Egyptian way, especially the curved. Exactly, it's especially the way of the horns there for the king. This is kind of different, but the very white and red crown. This is related, like in that one, the very traditional white and red one.
No elongated skull.
Yes, exactly.
Elongated skull, where all the other ones earlier did.
Yeah, exactly. And if you just look to the faces of the king, is that you can kind of like really like it's not really Egyptian one.
Yeah.
Just let everybody know that.
So, in this particular perspective, when the god king or the man takes over and the essence is being put back in him, this is the transferring of the god essence into the being, and the original I am is replaced by the god essence, because they could transfer bodies. That's how they leapfrog through time.
You can put the soul back into another body or skin suit in another time.
You hear me talk about it in shows all the time. Here it is up on the brick walls, up on thousands of years old, that they could transfer into the bodies and pass through time.
What happened to the spirit that was originally in that body?
It goes on to another body because it's just there as a placeholder for the god to come in. And after they've done service several dozen times, they get up a little level. They'll become a magical priest and understand how to create it for themselves after 10 or 20 more lifetimes. But if you notice in the Ptolemaic times, they had lost all that technology because the god kings, if here, he's got no elongated head. And all the other temples you see, all the kings and pharaohs had elongated heads. That had been ended by them. That whole passing of that on. Because they were inbreeding. Which you hear stories over and over. You had to marry your brother or your sister.
Exactly.
Right.
This is very Quetzalcoatl up here in the middle. The two cobras in the middle.
Well, that's really common.
Yeah. Very. Yes. Okay. His name?
Just if it had more Mayan stylization, it'd be exactly, yeah. It's just styles different. Yeah. We photo on the camera?
So.
This serpent actually with a crown on here.
What's that?
The serpents.
Yes, a cobra. Cobra with the red and the other side there with the horse. Yeah.
So you don't see this one. You don't see
no,
that
usually yes, but the cobra with the red crown and the vulture with the white crown. That means Upper and Lower Egypt. So the cobra now is actually wearing the crown of Lower Egypt, which is the symbolic for the Lower Egypt, both of them. So red crown, cobra and papyrus. White crown, vulture and lotus. When they put them together, they put the lotus with papyrus, they put the white with the red, they mix the snake with the vulture thing. So kind of unification.
Okay.
Right?
So how about we make this our next healing facility and I'll build a big temple. We'll have to use Temple Consulting Agency. He's formed a company already. These faces here, Sean.
Look at but you know the medical symbol? Come guys, I think this is like exactly like the medical, Andrew.
Yes.
This with the snake right here. I want to show you that.
It's a mystery school story.
That is a mystery school symbol right now.
Where is that?
It's a mystery school symbol.
Which one?
This one here, sweetie.
That
the
one?
snake on the top.
Oh.
I'm not going. You go.
Very peaceful. Ready? Close your eyes.
The story here around it.
Yeah.
The people they cannot understand what I mean.
The story around
the story around it is just like Horus, that the different like Hathor and Horus and God and the king and Isis kind of like honoring Horus being in his temple. But what's down there is kind of people. But the vibration there, the energy there is just amazing because the people already measure that vibration and the energy goes out. This is a specific spot. It just boom, like really, really high frequency. So.
Andrew, would you mind telling everyone about what you told me about these things coming out of the wall?
If one of the guides come, you need just to get your hands a little bit. Sean?
Not all of them had the same purpose.
These are different
But technology would be attached to them. Okay. In this particular one, it was a holographic emitter. Now, have you ever seen where they condense a language into a code? So they can take multiple words and condense it into a code. What this is a condensed code. But it also represents how to unlock your holographic mind. So understanding each of it is a three-dimensional model. So when you'd be coming through here on your medicine journey through the temple, all of this stuff would come alive, and when you'd stop at this particular point, all of the stuff would come out. So think of the movie The Matrix, where all those symbols come out. So if you lined up here,
that's exactly half of the temple.
yeah. So if you lined up right here, this would have a holographic emission coming out, would enter your crown frequency and begin to spin around, and all of this would then unlock, and a whole new message would be there other than what's on the walls. It's a language translation tablet.
Would it be possible to take like high resolution cameras and
Yes,
take everything
absolutely.
and recreate it?
But they don't want anyone to do that. But yes, it would be very popular to do it. All you need to do is get all this in and see it in three-dimensional model, and the whole code would be delivered to you.
That would be awesome.
Because it has to be seen as a complete code, yeah.
Gotcha.
Even the spots that are cut out, it wouldn't matter. Because it's the space and positionings of everything.
What these said in somehow in the technology things or in our when they teach us, they said this is more about and that it's okay. هي بتقعد عشان رجلها وجعها. So when in their time they said this is kind of like CC, just getting it. So they kind of like giving them what they call it secret language between the high priest and each other, kind of like not that every locals people do that, or only the higher priest they could kind of recognize it and understand it. Not every single person. Yeah, just give it. Excuse me, guys. You okay? So yeah, this is what they told us. Like it's a secret language. Not everybody can understand it, but only the higher priests they kind of like understand what's written there. So it's kind of like again secret codes between only the high priest.
Even older than that, and older than that, and older than that.
Yes.
So.
But again, it's kind of.
But this is not super ancient. This is a 10,000-year-old temple, 10 to 12,000-year-old temple. This. Because what's missing in the center here is the key.
Oh, missing the center.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
You mean it's been picked out?
No, somebody thought something was behind it and knocked into it, seeing if that was the false, 1-inch covering. That's why a lot of these holes you randomly see. They were putting a hole there to see if there was a false covering there.
Horrible.
Yeah.
It's all the way around.
Remember, this stuff used to all be adorned in gold too. Okay. So imagine what it was like walking through here with gold foil, aligning everything.
And with the light shining.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then tripping your balls off.
Exactly. That's cool. Yeah.
Hey Andrew, you are yourself now.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We love that about you.
Yeah, because the ancients, that's all they did. Tripped the light, fantastic.
That's right.
Is there any knowledge anywhere that can reproduce this? Like, does Alexandria have this knowledge, or had the knowledge?
What form of knowledge? What do you mean? This?
Like, to be able to recreate this? Like, or is this it?
Well, this would be part of the temple building company. So business plan.
That's intellectual property in the temple building construction company.
Well, I don't want to know the
because there's
details.
a sub-company, it's the Hieroglyphs.
I guess the question is just yes or no. Like, I don't need to know the details.
You can never only answer in yes or no because we're dealing with absolutes, and absolutes are only for the Sith. Who caught the Star Wars reference?
Yeah.
Star Wars? Do we mean Stock Wars?
No, the movie.
Phallus Wars.
Yeah.
So in this section, they're combining many Holy of Holies. And then all the DNA lineages, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 20. Let me just pull it out. Everyone just back up a little bit. I got to need space to do this.
You're doing your magic, Andrea.
Somebody come over here and just hold this over there. You over here. This. CC. Doesn't want to come out. One. Stand over there. Got watchers. Hold on. Just hand it back. So this is representing of all of the lineages that actually have king blood, actual off-world or king blood in them. And it's an encodement for the super high-end priests to know how to test for what they called royal blood, but it was really DNA that had multiple skill sets in it that were built in. It was easy for off-worlders to come in and take in the lineage. So it's a code of who had the DNA put in them and who shouldn't have it put in them. So it's like a condensed code or an almanac of what's been done previously and what mistakes not to make. And then what some of the skin suits do. But this particular section that's been broken out there's a duplicate of this somewhere else. There's probably only adorned in gold and not put on the wall, so that's probably why. We cleared, nobody watching. Step in here. All right, now I'm surrounded by the code. Oh, there's people in here. It's almost like beyond the code for what's in the DNA, there's a record of how many visitations have come and how many times the various gods have been hijacked by different peoples. And it represents also who in the society knew that they weren't gods and what lineages knew the truth. Because they knew that gods were always in battles and wars and that gods had holographic technology. But you can't make them talk exactly the same way, act exactly the same way. So it's really a record, that aspect of it, but it's just endless amounts of information. It took me a long time to sort all this through.
Okay, what does this say? What does this here? What does this say right here? What is this?
It's not. There's a figure for the god. When it just hands rise it up, it's kind of prayers, like, you know, it's a symbol for the god prayer or person who prays.
Is this for prayer symbol?
Yeah.
Who is this?
It's a face, which means he talk about some specific person. Instead of put the person name, he just put a figure of the face.
The face, but we don't know who it is.
Oh. It's not even a name around.
Can everyone go against the wall?
We just need to keep our eyes on the part when we came, you kind of must be there.
I saw that.
Yes. Yep. Thank you for that. You got it over there.
Sir George?
Okay, just hang on if you need to. I'm good.
Hands on the door, touching. Hands on the door, touching. Energy flow.
I'll move that before you step in.
Everyone just chill out, relax. Just keep your hands pointed forward or on your down, pointing down, like this. There's like a sheet, like an accounting sheet of people. That's all worship. All right. We got lookers. Just relax.
Shadows. I see shadows.
We got people coming, so just relax.
I see shadows.
Maybe, you know, also from both the standing temple.
Oh, excuse me, that was my water bottle.
3 owls on top. We don't really see that often.
Owl is like a...
Of course.
It's
So this particular guy's crown.
that's actually horse. Yeah, but owls is wisdom. Don't worry about the guy if you just want to keep going.
It's hard too because he doesn't understand.
Oh, true. Yeah, exactly.
It makes it very...
But you get it connected in somehow if you are in the boat. That's okay.
No, I can do more. I've got the whole code. It's just literally understanding it. It's like trying to read an entire...
Yes, exactly. Too much.
It's really fast.
Who's the guy?
We see another symbol that's very similar to what's going on. That's another compaction. I'm willing to bet there are several dozen more of these, which unpacks more.
Bird's gone.
Well, he'll pop back in a second.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
1, 2. I see 2. Yeah, we covered it.
What about that thing like owl over there? That's a different one.
No. I'm looking for something that's like a cipher. It unlocks the Here you go. All the way at the top.
I wonder if because the falcon is above, right above that whole display, if it's also a code for rebirth or transmutation.
It's also a map. New places for new temples to be built. Some of them have temples on, and there's many more that were future temple sites that were never built on. passing on the legacy before they left. So they knew full well that once the culture had inbred within itself, philosophically, not necessarily offspring, that the language would be bastardized, broken down, and this was a code to bring it back to its original format through the DNA, where they could then build their own temples and then connect to the beings that were the pretend gods, and understand that they did what they had to do in that particular era of time to save as much as they could. So the perception of the gods being good, bad, and indifferent. So as a legacy, part of this is, if you understood the code, the legacy to the future is how to come and greet the gods, which is what the moon mission did, because it's all based on Horus.
The moon mission?
Yeah, the moon mission was all based on Horus.
Apollo 11?
Two of them coming.
Yeah, I know.
Is it kind of like different, like having the winged jackal?
Yes, there's a lot of things that are very different here.
Here is a temple is kind of like coming with very weird things like winged rabbit, winged jackal, you know.
So there was a time where the flora and the fauna of the world had a rapid die-out. Part of a way to control the world is if there's not enough to eat,
yes,
they'll leave. And they started bringing in new species or older species from other worlds so they could rapidly repopulate the dying off species, or the population was growing so much that the local people couldn't survive. And they'd bring these in from other places and they'd rapidly breed. So
yeah.
Did those species really died, or they were transferred to another world?
no, they brought them from other worlds here. Wanted to take them here.
Do you want to go walk? Okay, go ahead. I thought he's like, you want to go?
That's what I thought he said.
Yeah, no. He said he want to walk. I want to walk with him.
Oh,
If you want to walk.
try to distract them. Yeah.
No, it's fine. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then volunteers, some of the other aspects on the wall, volunteers who would go to other places and assist in animal breeding. Because the Egyptians, one thing that they did do, they held on, was how to properly breed and do animal husbandry. They were grand masters at it, and that's something that was very much sought after by other worlds that were trying to create places, because they were geoengineering those worlds.
Yeah.
And if you had to bring in 10 million rabbits, 10 million ducks, and the environment couldn't support them, you had to make sure which ducks to cross over so that they could survive in the new environment.
Very big stones.
Right, let's walk. There's more to uncover.
You can give it offers, yeah.
No, it's three-dimensional. That's the thing.
Oh.
It's the square. I mean, you haven't seen this anywhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a three-dimensional kit.
Yes.
Because they're storing it to send it to another world.
Yeah. I mean, this is a specific spot in the whole entire temple. It's just different. Seems like in a different layer of the temple. It's not they built in the same time.
No.
Completely different. Yeah.
Somebody came in during an in-between king and queen rule who was an off-worlder and said, let me take some changes.
Just like,
Exactly. We fuck with them in the future.
No. No, it's not recent. It's ancient.
No, but my understanding, and maybe I didn't understand this correctly, someone said this temple could be only 10,000 years old as opposed to, hundreds
10 to
of
12,000 years old. The original thing was about 12,000.
Right. So the 3D picture there is something of that time?
Yeah. But they get the technology of having 3 dimensions then.
Yes.
You see it anywhere else?
No.
Exactly.
That's exactly the point.
Exactly the point.
So that makes big sense.
everyone bring 1 or 2 more crystals? This is the VIP.
What is this made of?
Hematite. Hematite.
Sandblast? Did it come rosy?
You can take that one.
No,
I'll know about that.
no. I'll use it. Let's go to the VIP section.
Hematite?
Who's this? That's hematite that I was talking about. How magnetic. You see that? Which one is?
Emerald.
So I need more crystals along that.
More crystals?
That's fine, I just need more volume up there. And let's get these white sheets out. I need
More volume?
something that way.
Grab these and
Except for once you can go one full with the name.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
You can break those up.
That's a new one with 3D font. We'll take it out of it.
Stick directly in front of the computer.
Are both going through them?
Yeah, there's 2, one on the left, one on the right.
Is that too much?
No, it's fine. Here's a big bag of salt that cuts this out. So everything has a all continuous flow. Yes, everyone check powers on your computers. Can you zoom this computer in? Can everyone come to the computer and zoom it in on the object that's on the centerpiece itself? Just line the feathers along the outside here, or a triangle or whatever around.
Okay.
What's it do? I hear it.
Stop the note.
And you're not a New Yorker either.
The other 2 computers. This one.
Everything right place or ocean will be like that.
It's going to slow things. I can't read it. So that's fine. Which one to go with?
Does everybody have a seat? Yes. Everybody has a seat? Yes. Got it.
All right, everyone, we're going to get started here in just a second. I'm going to turn on the protection group. I am the second president of the pre-creative memory. Create a signature frequency match. Some EDFU codex, time space, we entered multi-dimensional spiritual codes of equity. We opened 10 million spiritual codes of equities in simultaneous dimensions, time streams, galaxies, universes, with all the precognitive workforces. To be part of this, every present appropriate moment of the now. The now empower every facet, every aspect that is on these tables here to act as reflective action through time and space. So those that are looking at us have tens of trillions of facets looking back down at them of themselves. Each and every crystal here is again spiritually contracted to be here, past, present, and future. Remove all time travel operations, systems. And we ask the volunteers to step forward. So
You guys are going to need to see pictures too. So George's MacBook Pro that way, and this one turn this way so you guys will be able to see. I'm going to turn it so you guys can see the picture. This is where it'd be nice to be able to
You see it?
You gotta turn it more.
Everyone? Spinops.
Sean, how close do you need to be? Could you sit on that?
Sit. So now what I'm doing, I've set up a unique protection grid. Obviously we have a whole bunch of thousands of assistants here. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking this image, the front of it, and I'm pulling it out. There's a front, a back, a left, a right, a top, and a bottom. So I'm going to start layering front, left, back, top, bottom on the edges of what is here. And then in between that box are several dozen more layers that will also go on the edges. Now I will be seeing from here, so this is a short edge, those are all long edges. If I'm working with a short edge, it's something that I'm trying to contemplate its pattern recognition, because everything that this is called a DNA cipher. So if you don't have the specific rungs of DNA and the specific frequency of linear time, you're unable to perceive what this is as a multidimensional function. When she first showed it to me, I knew it was a code immediately. When I saw it in reality, going, all right, what is this? And you guys were able to see what I was able to do there. Now I'm going to try to create a translation in the fly. That is why I put so many crystals out. It makes it a lot easier when each and every one of these things are working with us. Now each and every one of you are also a part of this because you're a witness to it. You can choose to be an entangled or an unentangled observer, or nothing at all. You've heard the language that I've used before. Entangled observer does not necessarily mean bad. It means you're adding your co-creative value into it. And what is the basis of all of your DNA knowledge, combined with the crystals, combined with what we're doing, can open all of us in the form of, let's just say, DNA activation. Just enough where you're able to have some kind of feelings, tinglings through the body, all sorts of things. Now I will ask different people if you're experiencing things, or if the code starts to come out, your crown chakras can turn on, your third eyes can turn on. A variety of things can spontaneously happen. And I'm going to need a refill of that.
I just need to get for the mic.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Just go ahead and sit. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm looking at the top left corner, my left. There's one bar that's there. Left, one bar. That is telling me how the top, the side, and the edges meet. So pulling that out, there. Now the next bar right next to it, pulling that on that edge, that on that edge, that on that edge, that on the short edge, other sides on the short edge. First wavy line at the top, I'm pulling the very bottom of that box, that wavy line. It's going to go there, there, there. This is all streams of data that I'm unpacking. And I'm not trying to figure out what any of the data is. Now I'm going to do all of these bars at once. Let these guys spread them out. So we'll do it. Alright, now the next line, the edges next to them are all going to be crystals. Actually, I'm going to take everything and put it in the crystals. Each table has a cube above it. And I'm going to start to fill it up with information. Previously, we're talking about a DNA cipher. Now, there is an entity, or similar entity, not necessarily artificial intelligence, not necessarily full intelligence, something that looks over DNA itself. So something we'll call that the star or sun level, guide or guardian. It no longer needs physical bodies. It's there to oversee the journey of millions. Okay? So that is the type of entity or frequency of being that is protecting this code. Because in previous eras of history and time, Regina, you could put your microphone right there so it actually picks it up. So this thing, when I first looked at it, it was very confused at how I was able to activate because I have access to the DNA cipher. What it eventually learned is my DNA has a bigger code than its creator, which was a founder-esque being, not necessarily a founder being, meaning somebody brand new to a galaxy that set up the infrastructure that was there, made new planets, made new star systems, made asteroids and all that other stuff for life to start coming in from other aspects of different galaxies and being new different things. My era of light entities, our world itself, 18% of our world has super ancient beings. And each and every one of you are too. And millions and millions and millions and millions of you. You've all been through the hairball, which is that 54 million year repetition process. And this particular code was something that was introduced during the second timeline paradox as an attempt to get people to have, like, let's say, an emergency parachute. So if they find themselves in a repetition of tens of thousands of lifetimes caught doing something, if they were able to decipher this code, they could basically pull themselves out of the paradox and get themselves onto the new timeline, which is us, the fifth world of peace. This has other aspects to it. There's how to carve stone, how to move stone, you know, making it weightless. Everything that we would perceive that they didn't need technology was all through a deep connection to the place that you were, allowing the natural magnetics, the entities that service the astral world or the unseen world, the ancestors, those that came before us who set up, who also left an imprint here, so that one generation, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it was, no matter if the world was completely obliterated, there would still be a way for knowledge and wisdom to return. Now, off-world beings did come and imprint this on a wall. This was not something that was made by them. It was a piece of knowledge and wisdom that was given to them. If anyone remembers the space, if you're looking straight at this, a little ways down is an exact copy of that area, and then a blank piece. This is where I believe a gold sheet was that held this. And this is something that they just left in stone. And the gold sheet, I believe, existed in many different temples around, all around. And some of it was a different code, meant for a different lineage of people. It's just to say, as you could say, you call this a master code to those investing in the empire of Egypt post-Atlantean fall, or the last fall, which would have been from 18,000 to about 12,000 years ago. That's when the vast majority of people, 1.5 trillion people, would have
immigrated away from this planet on physical spaceships or teleportation or mass transportation devices. And they left behind a legacy of how to come and find them. But they also understood they had been battling very aggressive predator-based species who had very little of their own technology and were loved to be technology thieves, especially DNA technology. So they created these DNA cipher locks to stop them, because they would never be able to advance to higher densities and dimensions of understandings without getting into the truth of what pure forgiveness and what pure unconditional universal source love is. You can only fake it for so long with love as a predatorial species before you can't actually cross the threshold of deeper forgiveness, deeper self-love, deeper respect and altruism for everyone that you're with. When we understand that form of oneness, we're able to emanate it. Those predator beings can't actually emanate it. Though, when they see us, and they see us in high frequency, they can copy a frequency and make pretend versions. This is the holographic equipment many of the fake gods would use. An emanation device that would make us think that they're high frequency, even though internally they never were. That's why so many of the stories reflect gods acting like us. Alright, just let me tune in a little bit. Chris, they're unable to see this.
It's okay, it's fine.
No, you have to be able to see.
Pressure on the forehead. Energy.
What are you feeling now with all these crystals out?
You feel anything with the crystals?
I don't know, they did talk about it.
They're getting cleansing.
You can see.
My energetic wings have came out, and it's sore. It's absolutely sore. As if I'm using it for the very first time in thousands of years.
Remember, don't run the 50-yard dash with those wings.
I know exactly what you
It's fair to say the team trainer is trying to bind up your wings with some ace bandages right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Put some deep rub on it.
Oh, yeah, it hurts. It hurts.
For you, what do you think? Come on, all these crystals out here, they've got to be doing something.
Give me some heat.
Smiling.
Yeah.
An empire. Very fast. You, out of stone, whatever you needed to do, you could cut, carve, rebuild cities in days, not decades. You just needed a space to put them in. Flowing water was easy. This is how to work with the elements, how to work with time and space, all of it, built inside your DNA. And as long as you have the cipher, you have access to this realm of information that is being broadcast throughout the whole planet from the pyramid grids. The pyramid grids also have a DNA cipher lock and a security system that is, if off-world beings come and they don't have this DNA cipher, they cannot manipulate any technology. That's why they manipulated the people, because the people had access to the technology, which made this world so unique to anything that was an off-world predatory-based species. Okay? So who would like to, actually Chris, we'll start with you.
Just any kind of question about this?
Well, about this code, about Egypt, about gods. Let's make it Egyptian-centric, because this code's made for the Egyptians.
Does that have anything to do with the violet flame you were talking about last night, or that violet sound
It is
vibration?
the violet flame is in this drawer. So there were certain initiates that would have the violet eyes. So the violet eyes was not alone. They had other versions of it. So the violet nipples, the violet phallus, and the violet vagina. So they would all emanate energy. And the greatest lover goddess would have the violet eyes, the violet nipples, the violet vagina, or the male version, the violet phallus. So then the combination had both. The divine phallus, divine vagina. So yes. And it was something that they were knowledge taught, because procreation is dealing with the fetus in the womb and the infinite beings, and those are some of the greatest oracle creators. Earth in Egyptian times, they could produce oracles like by the dozens, and then they could be traded to other worlds, and then those other worlds would have access to an oracle who could then teach
other worlds how to use their sexual procreation process to create their own oracles. So once you bought an oracle for your world, they could start teaching more and more and more, and this is something that was traded there. Okay, next, Regina.
Well, my question is how we, through the technology, bring the memory and the skills we used to have living in Egypt, how to revive so we can use it for the healing and for other, because we were healers.
So the answer to that is our DNA was watered down on purpose. You think of copy of a copy of a copy 10 trillion times. And that's part of what the galactic ascension machine was about, was to water down the DNA so you didn't have access to the God aspects. You had to physically bring them in through life experiences, life after life after life. As I said, all of you are ancient beings. Now it's a matter of putting together all of the aspects that you have into this body. That's what your spiritual purpose is. Whatever frequency of life force you want is yours. You have to learn to make it sacred. You have to learn self-healing, self-nurturing, all those common aspects, and then bring them into your meditative process, where it's going to start with a DNA rung starting at your crown, like a blue one going down and a red one going up. As long as you can maintain those images, you can begin to do what I'll say longer-term DNA surgery. It is a conscious, forceful imprint onto your DNA, because your DNA doesn't want to change. It is being affected by the Earth-Schumann resonance and all the other sacred sites that are tied into this emanation of knowledge and wisdom. On one level, the emanation of this knowledge and wisdom is a limitation to us, because so many of the other grids have been hijacked and other pieces of information have been put in there that aren't to our greatest good. So there are aspects in our DNA that we have to go out. I don't need this one rung that nullifies all these other rungs. And then there's this rung that opens up all these other rungs based off of the goodness we've done in hundreds or thousands of lifetimes, the philosophies we've created that have been passed on. There is we will make an assemblage of soul-based victories, and in those soul-based victories is where we can begin, as a conscious being, in those soul-based victories, achieving a form of oneness. We've all had a oneness experience, but oneness comes in an infinite amount of forms. Our intention is oneness with our DNA in this lifetime, so it emanates forward in time and backward in time. 10,000 generations to the past and 10,000 generations to the future. You and anyone in your lineage of you, meaning you might have made another version of yourself, so on and so forth, has access to a unique stream field of energy, and that changes your light body DNA, which is always keeping us equivalent to the Earth's Schumann resonance based off of where it is in the galaxy or in the universal rotation. So how do you bring it all together so we become healers? It's aligning your planetary time, your galactic time, and your universal time as a single stream of light, as a meditative, direct, forceful imprint, as the soul in a DNA skin suit of experience who is in a field of information that is a bubble of limitation. And to understand the bubble of limitation is to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, so we can become global Dreamtime citizens. And that's accepting a new form of citizenship. We can still be here, do our stuff, but multidimensionally living begins in the global Dreamtime, where we begin to share as masters what we can do, not just in the physical world, but in the unseen world. We will be able to step into at any moment in time while these bodies continue their actions.
Thank you.
Eleanor?
So I have two questions that relate. When I first looked at the image, for me there was a lot of colors that were shooting out. My question is there a particular sound or sounds associated with this technology that we can use to help to have a better communication and a sovereign use of it?
Yes. So sound and light is very much a part of this code too. So an aspect of the sound, the fetus in the womb hears the heartbeat of the earth mother. So that is a sound that is a requirement of an experience at a mystical level for you to have access to certain parts of the code. There are certain parts of the code that have like security features in them that says, unless you've experienced this level of true universal love, you'll never get past that. Because once again, this is to stop DNA thieves who aren't ready for that type of information. So if you haven't experienced that universal forgiveness or that high level personal forgiveness, you won't get any further. That's the fetus in the womb. Things like trillions of crickets in perfect unity singing you a song, the ocean waves that lullaby you to sleep, and a variety of other things to that type of metaphor. The bees.
But is there a specific light language word, like sentence that would go for this particular thing?
Yeah, I need to have a cigarette. I need to put smoke in here.
It's almost like comparing.
Yeah, there's a whole chatter to this. Because I could listen to it strictly as chatter, but that's a more dense code. I'm at the pattern recognition of the creator. Because I'm actually trying to read the creator. That's fine.
And then the other aspect of that, Andrew, this seems to tie in. Every time I look at this, I see like a Rubik's Cube floating in midair, moving fast. Okay, this somehow ties into like master programmers and the holographic nature of this reality.
Absolutely, it does.
So, what about that?
So there are cubes all over here. I start with the outsides, and then I work in. So right now I don't have 2 hands, I have about 10,000 hands that are spreading out. We see this in religious cultures like the Indians. It's how you reach in and bring information out of the grand field that's there. And what I'm doing is, okay, part of me says this is a pattern, this is a pattern, this is a pattern, and the code can only be solved as a cipher, pulling the patterns together. And the entities that are watching from the sun are in an audit phase, trying to determine how much self-love, self-healing you have. Do you actually pass the litmus test of being a good person with altruistic respect to the universe? That answer your question? Sean?
Dream weave interaction and living the dream.
Speak up, I can barely hear you.
Dreamweave interaction with the technology and...
This is separate of the dreamweave. Okay. Even though it's in the physical world, it is actually only a representation on a wall and some gold plaques. So it's something that was made in another dream and then brought here and made manifest in this unreal dream. Okay? Because here now, we used to be 8,000, 10,000 bubbles of reality that all had their own frequency of time. We're all sharing Roman numeral time now. So this is a paradox technically within itself. But they figured out how to make it stable through the DNA cipher code so that it existed in the dream, but you couldn't dream with it. You can't dream with it. That's actually part of the security system built into it.
Right. This is an honorable, respectful way you can interact with it in journey.
Like what we're doing now.
Yes. Okay.
Having each crystal is acting as a protector.
Is there benefit to re-accessing it?
Oh, yeah.
Like seeing.
You'll see your lineage of ancestors and where DNA was put in that took away your unlimited God energies, and then where to put it back in.
Okay, so this is good for achieving unlimited God abilities?
Yes, there's lots of bugs coming in. It's fine. They knew they were going to come in.
So this is working with Earth within her rules to...
No, it's separate of her rules, but she approved it because she had to let an outside auditor.
Oh, so it's a window of way into doing that?
No. It's its own bubble that could only be accessed by those that are already experiencing universal oneness. If you don't have universal oneness, it's a carving on a wall or a piece of gold painting that has a myth and a story behind it, and you'll never solve it because it is a universal love. You can't dream with it at all, even if you're in the sun. It is solely for those beings ready to do the DNA surgery on the lineage 10,000 generations in the past and 10,000 generations in the future.
It omits the to-do list, though.
No. You have to learn from it.
Yeah, so it omits the thing to learn from it?
No. The fact that you have the unlimited energy of forgiveness is what gives you the access to learn. But you still have to use the commitment, courage, and love within yourself to not only lay this out, but do it several dozen times in a row before you can even have a basic understanding of it. Mia?
So, going back to when these hieroglyphics were done, I'm still trying to find the connection as to why they did this, how they did it.
Why? There's an answer why. This world was a DNA farm, and it was looking for the superstars that would come through certain wombs of certain lineages, and then they would be put into a caste system and trained so that they could be traded as off-world resources. A psychic, an oracle, a stone carver, because they could rapidly rebuild cities or build brand new cities on brand new worlds. So this was a code and a cipher to the kings and queens what lineages had what skill sets in it. And that was their private strategy of this clan over here, we need to give them 10,000 horses as a bribe 5 generations ago, so that the 5th generation coming out would be very willing to come to us because we got them out of their horse buying, whatever it was. Because our culture then was very limited. We had been bombed back to the Stone Age, literally. Now, reasons they would do this, they would imprint this for a way that people get out of the DNA trade. If you didn't want to do it, you could ascend yourself. Self-ascension, service to self-ascension. That's a hum.
I'm interested in elementals, and I understand there's instruction manual in there. Could you please provide what it says about?
Okay, because we're on the Nile, let's talk about water. Water is programmable, and there's access to what we'll call the global Dreamtime grid. When you accept your global citizenship as a global dreamer, you'll have access to the entire water grid: air, surface, subsurface, deep subsurface, deep astral, because there's water everywhere. And each layer has a different level of responsibility to it. And when you connect all layers of water, you'll have access to the Earth's imprint mind. So you'll be able to work directly with the Earth as a aspect or apparatus of investing into areas of water, so there can be more light, more depollution, more pollution energy, trade energies out from this section, that section. So there would be a rapid changing of energy, a rapid changing of frequency on the world to create greater awareness amongst beings. Now on a more practitioner magical level, the water knowledge here on the Nile is how to move water, how to make the desert green. And that's an altruistic thing. You should begin as a multi-year practice, because it'll take years for you to figure out, how do you irrigate a desert. But what you may want to do is make a model, drawing. If you had your own desert, how do you irrigate it?
Already have.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the rain patterns that would go with it that don't interrupt other places and spaces. How to gather water from certain area that is an excess amount of water, and there are beings, spiritual beings that say in Bangladesh that say, we got all this extra water we don't want during our floods. Who's going to take it? That's trading ancestral waters. And once you trade in these ancestral waters, super positive ancestral energies come back to you or your lineages in the future or in the past. Okay? So part of water is the mass transmutation, transportation of ancestral karma. Instead of us being the resolving things, it's in the water. And then we can all, as elemental water masters, can agree, hey, we don't want Bangladesh to flood, and I want to irrigate this desert. That's exchange magic. Sue?
I don't know any stone or jewelry they connect to me or something. That's my question. I don't know what it is. Any stone or any jewelry I have at home, at the bank, or any stone will connect to me.
Only the stones are connecting to?
All they connect to me, even with all jewelry, even my sister passed on me a lot of jewelry. Are they connect to me somehow?
Yes, but we're talking about this code on the picture here.
Oh, okay, so I have no question. I don't know.
Okay. You know?
When I'm looking at the picture, it kind of gives me the impression of Garden of Eden. Would that be it?
No. This would precede the Garden of Eden by tens of thousands of years. And the Garden of Eden was actually not really a real story in any way, it's completely made up. But it does represent a DNA farm that was there, but that's the only DNA farm they wanted you to know about. Because there were thousands and thousands and thousands of bubbles of reality that had their own time frequency, their own bubble of reality that had their own DNA lineages in it. And back then there was an agreement, you don't come into my lineage unless I want you in, or we would come in and cross over. And that's what many of our modern conquerors, Hannibal, Genghis Khan, so they were conquering individual bubbles of reality and trying to bring one common DNA skin suit to water everything down. Answer?
I was thinking about the DNA you said, which was more globally oriented. I'm curious about that.
The global dream time or the?
No, with the DNA global. Some people had like DNA that was more globally oriented.
No, not as watered down. Not as watered down. So there's part of the understanding is DNA is 80% memories from previous lives, and some of those memories contain skill sets that are built within this code. Like some skill sets are how to be a master stone carver in days instead of decades, how to be a stone mover in days instead of decades, how to be a healer in days instead of decades. You just access that memory just like in the Matrix, and with that pattern of matter of days you process it, and the other being who is that previous experience becomes your teacher spirit, and they imbue the knowledge through your DNA and suddenly becomes part of your information field that's solely accessible to you as an I am, that doesn't compete with your agenda. It is here for service to you as a field of information that's always accessible to the I am, that doesn't compete, it doesn't create duality, it doesn't create a hierarchical system that it's above you or below you. Does that answer it?
Thank you.
Dope.
My concern now is how we can protect this piece, and like this information piece, from not being attacked or just...
It's protected by a DNA cipher. So no one can access it without the actual high level of personal forgiveness, the high level of internal unity and oneness with themselves. I have that level, but I also have a DNA that supersedes the creator of this. Many of you have a DNA in you that supersedes the creator, and you just haven't activated it. That's part of my choice. My journey was to have an activation at 9 years old and not turn it off. At any point in my life, I could have said, nope, I'm done, I don't want to do it, next, you can take over the line, I don't want to do it. Does that make me hierarchical? No, without you guys here, I couldn't do this. Would I tread all these crystals out on my own boat on the Nile? No. Exactly, and each and every crystal and every gemstone, every jewelry came from all of you.
Did you also mean, Dora, you mean how to physically protect that piece of stone on that wall?
No, both ways actually, physically and spiritually, because you know, with that level, I mean, like, it's not easy for anyone just who can access or understand it, but I know I just worry for someone with a certain level can
take it away.
Take away, yeah.
They can't take that picture.
Yeah, but or misuse it or just like...
No, because the technology, this is what, like, the Illuminati and those relic hunters through all the times and ages do not understand. You have to be in your heart frequency to access it. You have to be in a high frequency of love. Without that, you can have all the guns, you can have whatever you want.
You'll never get it.
You'll never get it. You'll never unlock it.
Now the observers, those that are in the sun, that are accessing, are all scanning you now because they're wondering what I'm doing. I said, I'm putting on a show. So they're like a show. What is the show? So they're all scanning you now. They're not scanning you for your personal level of forgiveness. They're scanning you to like, why are you all assembled?
Yeah, but that was another, just sorry, what is it within our soul contracts? Because this is a complete unpredictable experience. We didn't know about this. What are we souls, these I am presences here, how can we be in service with this knowledge and mantle of responsibility, having been exposed to this code?
What level of altruism are you ready to reach? Each and every one of you has an individual skill set that can make this picture global on every magazine, every newspaper for a very cheap amount of money. Who wants to do that? It'll never go away, and it'll activate a few 100,000. But what is the responsibility of activating them? Because they don't have the skill sets to deal with the information inside it. They may have high levels of forgiveness, but they're not spiritual. I've met many atheists who forgive everything. And they're literally one step in belief away from popping out, doing what they want to do.
My question is more pertaining to all the pyramids on this planet and all the ancient technology. We know, yes. My question is pertaining to all the pyramids on this planet, above and below, and in the oceans. And because they're built on certain specific ley lines, is there any type of sentience, any type of communication between them?
Yes. A secure communication exists between all sacred sites that are tuned to a geomagnetic frequency of the era in which they were born. That's their standing frequency of time. So whatever communications are done, they're broadcast through time, not through our airways, not through our biomagnetic field. So a frequency of communication comes from this moment of time, and then this pyramid says, all right, who are my tenders? They will hear this information and determine if this generation needs to know this information or not, or if it's just emanating in the general global field, and who can use it when they need it. And it has layers of security built within inside it.
And as, I'm sorry, and as the consciousness of the planet raises, is it affecting us in any way, or?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. It's adding more information to the field that is specific to certain souls' types of pattern recognition. Because you're going to have a different pattern recognition than her, so on and so forth, until we all start sharing our patterns and go, whoa, 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 all the aha moments go on. George?
Yeah, DNA activation, how do you trigger it?
How do you trigger it? You kind of said that already. It's self-healing, self-love, self-nurturing, reaching high forms of universal forgiveness and love. That's the self-litmus test to have commitment and courage to step into this bubble and begin to learn. All of those skill sets are there. You're your soul guide into it.
Yeah, so, that's fine, just want to but yeah, so you do that and you get a certain way down that process. It's just a continuation of that.
Once you step into the bubble, you're the third grader again. And you're your own teacher. You have to be able to access the field on your own, separately of any other guide or guardian. That's why there's an entity always watching, because it's based off of doing your own soul surgery DNA, 10,000 generations to the past and to the future. So you have to experience the field of information on your own without an external guide. As the I am, to have full access to this.
Okay, so you're doing that through meditation, journeying,
all of that, intuition. All of the above, yes.
And was that specifically this code? I mean, it's got all sorts of stuff in it, but is that, is it you talked about service to self ascension.
Yes.
Is that
it's the greatest form of self-healing for a soul. But it also has an exclusionary factor of the global unity. But part of this thing is you have a global Dreamtime citizenry,
and you invest part of your infinite soul to assist others in waking up. You make guides and guardians of yourself. So that if you have service to self-ascension, the one I am that comes becomes a new oversoul, just like we have an oversoul watching us, and they can go to another world and make new I ams. Or make I ams here if they wanted to. It's multidimensionally living from the eagle eye point of view with all your little pawns and soldiers trying to amass karmic resolution or dharmic initiation.
Is that kind of juxtaposed to service to others, essentially?
Yeah, it is. But they're both achieving the same thing, just a different scenic route there. Remember, the journey isn't a lone journey, and that philosophy is not a bad philosophy, even for service to self-ascension.
We're all basically, essentially selfish. We do things because they benefit us.
In a greater good, as in self-healing, self-forgiveness, because if you can forgive 20 million years of false light information, you're forgiving everything that's ever done negative karma to you, as a service to self-being.
Yeah, you're forgiving them because it's ultimately good for you.
Yes, and then you have to forgive yourself for entangling with them too. Cece? What are you experiencing first? I can see your eyes are like bugged out and your crown chakra is all lit up.
Yeah.
What are you experiencing?
I'm experiencing a lot of energy from here to here, but ever since I saw that today or was around it today, I feel a glowing representation of that right here, and sometimes it extends all the way up to here, and sometimes it comes back.
What that is the entity has identified you as what has all ones in your DNA. That means somehow, some way, during the great watering down of our DNA, a smattering of master DNA made it together, mishmashed, generation after generation after generation, and since you've been born in this lineage thousands of times, you figured it out as an oversoul, and made this lifetime have the ever so spark of a potential of aligning all the rungs in the right spot. And what it's doing is trying to show the oversoul this is the right order. Can the I Am do that out of free will, true love for themselves, true forgiveness for themselves, and it'll unravel and do the DNA surgery on yourself. So it's going, here's the map to do it. Here's the DNA map to do it.
Okay, what happens to us as a collective now that we have all this information since we created this?
Something completely unpredictable happens to the system, and then they have to go back to the drawing board and go, what the fuck?
Oh, so that's great.
Yeah.
We penetrated. I have a really quick question.
Sure.
I see when I start my meditation, sometimes I see the eye horse, while saying I, looking back at me. What does that mean to me?
He's looking at you.
So okay. That's what? Sorry.
Looking back at you. Looking back at you.
Okay.
Okay, who all is a dowsers here?
Us. I asked to bring my pendulum.
Yeah. So anyone that's a pendulum person, now is the time to pull it out, especially
Yes.
your bogus charts.
I don't have a bogus chart. Give me my bogus
Anyone that has
chart.
charts?
Okay, I'll get it.
Did you mention that it's kind of like this type of codes existed in the temple?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Other codes specific for other lineages.
Not exactly same, but could be in different way.
It'll look similar to this. It'll be as common as flowers that are blooming. And you know they're there year by year by year by year until one day you stop and go, hey, that's different.
Yes.
This flower has 5 petals instead of 4.
Yep. Do you think the missing piece is for the purpose?
Yes. And to me, the missing piece doesn't matter. It's like a hologram. As long as you have one piece, you have the whole thing. A piece of holographic film, you cut it in half, you still have the whole image. You can do it an infinite amount of times. So the code is still there.
Same thing. I was always here. Always.
I feel empowered, like just something is coming back.
Memories.
Just really,
Yeah,
it's
like,
really, it's
it's
really
like a
empowering.
picture. It's going to be like a picture you haven't seen in 20 years ago. Oh, I remember that, and it's just going to unlock all this stuff. So everyone that's feeling pressure in your head, take a few moments to actually consciously bring it down into your tailbones. Each breath, whatever personal thing you want to do, just take 2 or 3 minutes to do that. Literally consciously bring it into your tailbone. and allow tailbone to ascend up so this information melds. Think of it like oil and water that have separated. You want them to mix again and shake it back up. And that's something you're going to have to regularly do to stay in tune with this.
Short ends too. Short ends.
All right, everyone, dinner is going to be served in just a little bit. So we're going to leave this set up here. We're going to go have dinner. And when we come back, we'll reopen the circle. We just shut some of this stuff down.
Close the computers so we can keep battery.
Leave the computer open. Everything the way it is, let me do what I do. Because technically we don't all leave. We're always there's a part of us here. There's a part of us that's going to stay here and continue.
It's more interesting in this than food.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. The spiritual aspect of this.
All right, it is now
Other
closed down.
versions of us are
Stacy,
here.
so if you guys want to take pictures or run and wash up.
Absolutely.
Sorry?
Just Megan is words just on.
Andrew BARTZIS, you're on live now.
It's called multi-dimensional living. I get a kick out of this stuff.
Otherwise, I'm like. Natalie!
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking at the ancient systems of belief. I know. And then for me, I look to trace that back. So when I'm looking at
This is known as the shit. Revocation, contract, or domination of potty control. At the time, she was suffering very, very bad from menopause, having hot flashes and some rather menopause-y things go on, and which included being stopped up. And she hadn't done colonics in 4 or 5 years, and so it was a harsh few days of cleansing for her. So this is what evolved from that. I, in this ever-present co-creative moment of the now, call forth and open a spiritual court of excrement equity, so that I, as the apex of this I am experience, may fully alchemize in my integration by excreting all that is not of this integration frequency. Call upon Mother Earth and Father Sky and all the elementals, as well as my own DNA lineage, ancestors, and soul family to hold space and bear witness as I excrete the final layers that are of an old and false-like technology inserted into this DNA skin suit. I now excrete, ban, and banish from this I Am Presence's DNA technology skin suit of this and all other timelines and dimensions, every single frequency and aspects thereof, memories and effects that do not serve authentic, sovereign, free will manifest. I hereby state that no false light frequency stay left behind from my behind, and all that is entirely excreted into the earth system of natural excretion. I hereby say unto you that I do not give a shit. I give you all of it on all dimensions, time streams, galaxies, and universes simultaneously. I call to all of the mucus that has been trapped inside this DNA skin suit technology, and how this natural defense system has been used against us by the systems of domination and body control. I call to every cell and atom in this DNA technology skin suit. You do not have to bear the burdens of the system. You do not have to bear the weight of thoughts and mind control. You are now connected to this authentic signature frequency, free will, frequency manifest, and you're greatly eternally loved for your service. To my internal intestinal tract that houses my dreaming body, I free you so that you may again be together as one. I call the Earth Mother to record this in the Earth Akashic Body Records, so that all sentient kind know the use of free will comes with colonics, flushes, and contracts like this one. I love you very much, my beloved DNA technology skin suit, and I emanate vibration of infinite love through every core of your structure, so that we may be as one, enjoying this amazing experience together, once again called life. It is now our ancient future selves, as heaven on earth. And so be it.
Creative. Well done.
Chanted this out. Alright. So let's tune ourselves back up, get ourselves back into our I am DNA technology skin suit presences.
I have a little, tiny little roomy one.
Okay.
That probably the this does.
Sure.
And you were wondering what roomy sounds like, and so I remembered this one, which is, it's called knocking. Say, long have I stood knocking at the door, asking the question, why? Suddenly, the door opens. I've been knocking from the inside.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah, very deep. That's really good.
Yeah,
beautiful. Wasn't it good?
Yeah, it's good to have inebriated.
You end up browsing with your tongue.
I just got that. Oh man.
My next show is at 11.
Lisa, we'll get your pendulum for Christmas.
What do I find funny about this world?
Oh, a lot.
We have a night. Yes.
Still some of the basics. I find the conspiracy industry completely laughable that they would fall for flat Earth.
Oh, I was gonna say that. I was just gonna say
Fall for flat Earth. I mean, have we reached that point?
Global warming.
Global warming. That's
I know.
That's no
what
problem.
else do I find?
April Fool's Day.
Yeah, it's worked against me though. Unfortunately, something I find uniquely funny.
Oh, Goose Day.
So there are
Not so
times
Goose Day.
certain lineages, no matter how hard they try to change the lineage, no matter how hard you try to change yourself, written in your aura is I will never change. Ever, 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 ever change. And the whole person's purpose is I want to change this lifetime. It's like they've written in graffiti all over their aura. I'm like, this. So it's like walking to a person who says, I'm a light worker, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. But written inside their aura is, fuck you, I'm never going to change. Literally. And I find that absolutely laughable. Because their vanity, their narcissism is through the roof. Just through the roof. And I laugh at narcissists a lot because they don't see themselves. Well,
Of course not, they're only.
they don't, narcissist doesn't see themselves.
Not really.
No, they see the illusion. That's all they see. And then I find, the Illuminati laughable.
I love unexpected moments. Something you don't expect, it happens in a moment.
Yes.
And that leaves the memory forever. Even doesn't matter how short.
Yeah. I refer to my friend Keith, who passed on in 2016. There was a time we had gone to what's called Nelson's Ledges Quarry and Park. So it's a private park owned by a bunch of people who paid off all the local sheriffs. So you can do some unique things there, plant medicines, so on and so forth. And they bring in bands, and there's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, sometimes 10,000 people that show up for the weekend. So we're there seeing a group called Acoustic Hookah. They've been touring with Fish for about 19 years, and then they broke off and did their own thing. So it was a night we got Scooby-Doo LSD, 20 years old, and the things that happened in this thing were just beyond laughable, beyond proof, beyond it. But the fact that we're all in an altered state questions how things got started. So the first thing is our friend Jeremy drove into the spot, parked his truck. Just parked his truck. The next morning, because I'm changing for multiple stories here, the next morning he had parked on top of a stump that was that tall. And he didn't actually park on top of the stump, that's just how it ended. And had to get a tow truck to pull him out.
Oh, yeah.
So my friends begin to arrive, and we're putting out our campsite, and we all sit down, and I'm like, hey, a cat. And everyone went, a cat. And it's in between all of us, back and forth. And then Keith stands up, and he had this big walking, talking stick thing he had, and he just poof, puts it on the ground and turns around and starts doing his talk, and it just stands. And we're all just stopped, and Keith's walking like, the stick is standing. And Keith stopped and this is the day the standing stick stood still. And it stayed exactly, just literally put it up like that for about 10 minutes before it fell over. And when it finally fell over, we were all laughing because we're all like, it's gonna fall, it's gonna fall, it's gonna fall. Then we got skunked. A skunk. I'm like, that's not a cat. That is not a cat. And if anyone knows about skunks, when they turn around and they stamp their feet like this, you're done. He was already stamping. He was already stamping when I said that's not a cat, and it sprayed everyone, everyone in a park of 10,000 people.
That is funny.
Yes. So you can imagine the hilarity that happens when you're in that state. There was a quarry there, so we wouldn't jump in the water, which made it worse, which made us just smell like burning tires. And every time we'd walk, people were like, "You smoking?" They're like, "No." That's the day. Exactly. That's the day we every time we'd smoke cannabis, it's like we're smoking a skunk's asshole. Unless we can smell this ourselves. How to relate another story from another place. My very first time I did LSD, we had gone to a place called Cedar Point Park. And they have the tallest, fastest roller coasters in the world. It takes like a whole day to go through the park. So we had 10 o'clock in the morning we dropped. We did all the water rides first, which is the dumbest thing ever because we just walked with sloshing shoes all day. But we come out of the water park and we go over and there's this tiger display. And there's like 50, 60, 70 people. We go our way up and they give the show and all of a sudden everyone just runs away. And me and Garrett go, huh? The tiger had sprayed. And it went across Garrett's chest and right across my face. And it sprayed us.
Marketing here.
She goes, honey,
Honey, I am here. Honey, I am here.
She just fell on the floor and it was bouncy. She was chasing after her.
Air began clean and people began to have children again and the children were healthy and the animals began to recover just wherever the white horse went. I have no idea what's meant by white horse.
It was actually a white horse, a spirit horse. The horse is the weaver of the fabric of reality that spider wove. Spider woves the fabric and the horse creates the pattern of the dream world. Horse is always standing between the dream world and the real world. They live in both worlds. They have a foot in both worlds, a mind in both worlds. It's also the way their eyes are set up. They don't see straight ahead, they see left and right. So literally it was
So it was a spiritual horse that they created.
But we must understand that during that particular age, that's when the Andromedans returned, because 38 million years ago there was another battle for this planet where an even darker force had taken over, and it wasn't about polluting this world, it was about turning it into a mass baby factory for warriors, to produce tens of trillions of warriors weekly. Tens of trillions weekly. Weekly. Think of that. Tens of trillions of massively created beings weekly. To do what? Mass invasion of another world. Or they would suddenly kill the clones off, or the beings off, and then have them all in a spiritual compartment, and then they outbreed the physical world they wanted to go to, just by souls coming into bodies. Imagine if you have 5 billion or 10 billion living things on a world, and it's an unlimited factor through things can be born in. All of a sudden, there's a 10,000% increase of things being born there, and they're all coming from one world with one spiritual concept behind them: dominate, control.
Is it possible to do that again, or is that?
No, it's being done all the time.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, the spirit force.
Yes. Yes. So, the Andromedans, the blue beings in the Vedas and in the ancient texts, they have their particular technology can be seen and unseen, and they work with spirits a lot. The spirit of the planet, the spirit of people, the ancestral energies, Now, the negative beings they're kicking out were just another group of dickhead reptilians, or another version of them, so on and so forth. And there's been regular exchanges where they've taken over, the Andromedans come back, kick the heck out of them, so on and so forth. And then there was a time where the Andromedans were engaged in dozens of protective battles around the universe, and their homeworld got screwed up a little bit, and some negative beings tried to invade there, and they had to pull back from all the different fronts they were on, which left Earth in a situation where it had to cry out and cry out and cry out to the sleeping god, which was the activation to bring the Andromedans back to their promise, which was they had to defend Earth for an extremely long period of time until everything got time polluted. And at that point, all they had to do was back off and go ahead and let the universe finish. I actually talked about this in the Galactic History a little bit.
Did you?
There is a theory that I bumped into where people claim that 300 years ago there was a giant major cataclysm that basically covered a 1 floor height of dirt on ancient buildings, gates, and even Europe has a lot of buildings that have, same as the upper floors, the basement floor is like that. They just did a concrete opening for that window in the basement. So basically the foundation is 2nd floor down, not
they just built on top
at the level.
Yep.
So basically what they're saying is that there was some major flood that covered everything around Europe, southeast, around here.
How many years ago?
300. Because that's what they were counting, that the buildings were that old.
I don't see it, that type of destruction. But the thing is, stuff bleeds over from time, especially ancient buildings. You can be on top of it, and 1 year it's one way, and another year it's another way.
It's in my language, the video where he's showing the buildings and the evidence from archives, how it's been dug out, the gates and all that, how it's been something.
The last real worldwide destruction was about 11,000 years ago.
Oh, that's the Atlantean one.
Well, no, Atlanta, their destruction started 18,000 years ago. This was a deliberate natural act.
This is not like the destruction. What they're claiming is that it might have been just like a sand or mud that rose like 1 floor.
Again, it could be bleed over from another time. At an era where there were still local bubbles of time that weren't under Roman numeral time. What?
Sorry.
Corny.
Lost your key again?
That's in the door.
Oh, yay. I've had that happen.
The key has been found.
You mean do the ceremony at temples?
Yeah.
Yes. You don't allow that.
You don't allow it.
You don't allow that. So if you just look up there, did you kind of like the colors? Still, like, you just get a feeling like how is the whole entire temple was actually beautiful colored like that way. Yes. I mean that's why you.
Notice you move the camera a lot quickly, which makes bad shots.
Thanks.
If you watch it. No. I'm just trying.
So now you can tell different. one thing.
Can you say one word?
Okay.